Hello, everybody. Amer, enjoying the long weekend. Got a haircut. Definitely needed it. And back with yet another Mission Impossible episode review. Boy, I'm having a lot of fun now. I'm on to Season 7, Episode 11, which is called Kidnap. And fans of the show, and I'm sure you're here because you're a fan of the show, know what's coming up here. So let's do this. So this one starts with a group of guys at a tennis resort meeting with a man named Andrew Metzger. They watch Jim and Barney from a distance, with Metzger indicating that Jim is the guy that they're looking for. Barney is paid for a phone call just before their tennis match is about to start, and the two guys named Hawks and Hensel come up and slapjack Jim, putting him in the car and heading away. Barney is confused about who paged him, until Metzger appeared and says he's the one who did it. Metzger indicates that he was one of the people who took a big loss when the IMF took down the Aquarius Casino. That was in Season 6's episode called Casino. And says that his men have already taken Jim, so Barney is forced to listen to him. Metzger says he has a job for Barney and whoever he works with. His lieutenant, Mitch Connolly, has an incriminating letter in a bank safety deposit box, which he plans to turn over to the state in exchange for immunity. And Metzger wants the letter in exchange for Jim's life by 4:30. Barney gets together with Casey and Willie, and they've made some preparations. We learn that Barney has a plan to copy the letter so that Jim can be saved, but Metzger can be taken down as well. The Hoods take blindfolded Jim to an air raid shelter near Metzger's home, and a guy named Proctor, who is security chief at the Aquarius, ties Jim up to a bunk bed, making it very clear that he'd love to get any justification for shooting Jim if he tries to escape or make a move against him. Casey goes to Connolly's bank to get a safety deposit box and has an asthma attack. Inside the vault, she has another attack and drops her box of jewelry. The helpful bank clerk picks up the items as well as the key she drops, giving her time to make a quick plastic cast of the bank key for Connolly's box. As Casey leaves, a funny-looking guy near the door looks at her, and then some pictures of the IMF members. Jim manages to maneuver himself out of his predicament by separating the bunk beds and gains the use of his hands at least. He tries to find a way out but can't, and puts the bed back together so that when Proctor returns to check on him, everything appears as it should. Meanwhile, Barney goes to Connolly's apartment building, where he's waiting for the confirmation of his immunity as a safety inspector, going down to the basement, messing with the elevator control and alarms. Willie makes a key from the cast that Casey made, and she goes up to Connolly's floor and waits at the elevator with Connolly and the agents, as well as another older lady, signaling Barney. Willie gets on a few floors below, and Barney causes the elevator to get stuck between floors. Then suddenly, the real elevator inspector arrives, and the security guard goes to the basement to figure out what's going on. Claustrophobic Casey starts to freak out at being trapped in the stationary elevator. Dr. Willie tries to calm her down. Casey starts banging at the buttons and scrambling around frantically, picking the key out of Connolly's pocket as she does, pretends to pass out and drops the key into Willie's hand so that he can make a soap cast of it. And then when he revives her, drops it back into Connolly's pocket. The security guard finds Barney, forcing him to turn around, and the older lady, who was referred to as Dowager in the credits, that's a little weird, signals Barney, but obviously he can't respond. The security guard takes a look at the signaling device, and Barney quickly knocks him out and starts the elevator again. Connolly checks his pocket, confirming he has the key. Barney puts a device on the feds' car as they head away, and Casey and Willie return to the IMF van so that Willie can make the other key as they head to the bank. Meanwhile, Jim is still trying to make things happen, but here's Proctor return, so goes back to his previous position. Proctor offers him water, but Jim declines, so Proctor throws the water in his face and leaves. Jim spots an electric grate and channels the spirit of Walter White from Breaking Bad to use it to break the makeshift cuffs. Awesome. Barney's device causes the feds' car to have a blowout, so they get a cab to go to the bank, and Barney suddenly becomes the driver, with the traffic lights being rigged for maximum delay. Casey returns to the bank shortly before closing at 3 o'clock, and the guy at the front makes a call. Back in the vault, Casey has another asthmatic fit and asks the clerk for water, quickly opening Connolly's box with her keys and taking the letter, then saying that she'll come back tomorrow when she feels better. As she comes out, the guy makes another call, and we see it's to Hawks, who's waiting outside the bank. He snatches Casey's purse and dashes off. Willie chases him, but Hensel runs interference. Willie knocks Hensel out, but can't catch the car as Hawks races away. Connolly's letter is, of course, not found when he and the feds come to retrieve it, and Barney calls Metzger, who asks him to bring the letter over, which means the men were not operating on Metzger's orders, it seems. Barney says they can't afford to wait for the men to contact Metzger, so they'll have to forge Connolly's letter. They sit down, and Casey tries to remember details about the envelope so they can recreate it, such as the stamp and the wax. Barney has to make her retrace her memory to get details such as the date, but she manages to pull it off, and Willie types it up. Meanwhile, Jim finds some cleaning fluid in the cupboard and sets it up on the bed. It's after 4:30, so Metzger continues to wait impatiently. The IMF pull up, and Hawks and Hensel also make preparations to confront Metzger with the letter for extortion purposes. The IMF arrives, and Barney hands Metzger the envelope, saying that he'll get the letter when they get Jim. Proctor joins them, and they head to the shelter. Metzger demands the letter. They see that Jim is okay. Hawks and Hensel appear and show that they have it. They disarm Proctor, saying that first they'll kill Jim to make Proctor happy, and then he's next. Casey screams, and Jim throws the bottle of cleaning fluid at the grate, blowing the lights and starting a fire, and allowing the three IMF men to overpower the hoods. And Jim retrieves the letter from Hawks' pocket. We get this excellent finish.
Name your price. You just paid it.
And the IMF head out, locking the bad guys in the shelter until the police come. I know this is not an official mission, but mission frickin' accomplished. I'm going to give this episode a grade of an A+. I'm going to say something as a little bit of a cryptic spoiler here for those who might be paying attention. Going into season 7, I had no question which was going to be the best episode of this season. I think I have to rethink that now. Anyway, let me just leave it that where it is. Just as a note, Peter Graves directed this episode. We see that right at the beginning of the episode. So that's why he's a little bit kind of out of the action in this one. I read from the Mission Impossible dossier, though, that Peter Graves wanted to direct, and he said, basically, look, at this point, I know this show better than anyone, and I can't help but agree. What a fantastic job he did on this one, and a lot of credit goes to the writers as well. Let's go right into the good. Graves' direction is excellent, and what a unique premise for an episode. It really, really is. And not only that, we've had a lot of episodes that do have unique settings, unique premises, all of that kind of thing. But not all of them have a great story. And this one has a perfect, cogent story, which is not difficult to follow. This one really, really, really harkens back to some of the great stories and scripts we had back in season 2 and 3. It really, really does. You know, in all of the gushing I was doing over the quality of this episode and the story and whatnot, I neglected to point out that the guest stars in this episode are quite good. John Ireland, as I already mentioned, is Andrew Metzger. Some of the other guys, who play hoods, good casting in this one. I just thought I would point that out as well. There are so many great sequences in this episode. The sequence in the elevator is top notch. It is probably one of the best action sequences, I guess, if you want to call it that. Like if you want to pick, 3 or 4 minutes of an episode and say, damn, that's good television, that was it. The work that was done in the elevator with Linda Day George and Peter Lupus, and Linda having that claustrophobic fit, and, managing to get the key, dropping it into Willie's hand, putting it back into Connolly's pocket. Oh my gosh, it is so good to have Linda Day George back. Barbara Anderson was fine. She did a really, really nice job. filling in. This episode aired in December of 1972. I did some research. Linda Day George gave birth in July of 1972 to her daughter, interestingly named Casey. How about that, huh? And so obviously she's not pregnant in this episode. Yeah, and so this must have been filmed after she gave birth and returned to the series. We'll see her a lot more. She's not in every episode going forward, but she's in quite a few. This was actually filmed later on, in the production sequence when Linda was fully able to participate. She's positively glowing. She looks great. And it is so wonderful to have her back and to give her an opportunity to be in this great story where she can really shine. Love it. Can't say enough good things about her in this episode. Also great, Jim Phelps as MacGyver. Oh my God, he was Walter White and MacGyver before those two characters even existed. That I've seen this episode before, obviously. I didn't remember all the details. I did remember that Jim obviously did a whole bunch of cool things to, get himself out of the predicament that he was in, but just kind of watching it unfold, that was so top notch. Using the grate to separate the wire that's holding his hands together. Oh my gosh. That was right from, that I bet you that's where Vince Gilligan got that for Breaking Bad. I'd love to know. Even he may not be able to admit it. Maybe it's a subconscious thing. Maybe he saw this at some point, or maybe completely not. But you know what? Jim Phelps did it first. And Jim Phelps did the MacGyver stuff, with the cleaning fluid, starting a fire, all of that kind of stuff. Woot. Oh my gosh. That was fantastic. A great thing about this episode is it does have quite a bit of gadgetry involved in it, but it's not overcomplicated gadgetry. It's so simple. The stuff that Jim does, using the electric grate, that's not complicated. That's not something that you needed to plan, but it works and it looks so good. The key making, right? Using a, quick acting plastic and then a soap cast. That was great. And it wasn't complicated. It was so simple. It was so easy to show. That's what this show should be all about. Love it. Again, I'm just gushing over this, but this deserves it. Even the elevator manipulation by Barney, not complicated. He doesn't have to go, and that probably wasn't even in the budget, for him to go up and mess with the elevator. He didn't even need to do that. He just needed to be able to watch the floors and be able to stop the elevator between floors. That's it. Nothing complicated. Even the wild card of having the other elevator inspector show up at the same time is well handled. It's not overly contrived, and it just works, right? They don't spend a whole heck of a lot of time on it. It's a monkey wrench thrown into it. They deal with it and they move on. Again, shades of seasons 2 and 3 when exactly that sort of thing would happen in the episodes that we all remember and love. So good. Another thing I noticed was that in the fight scene at the end, I looked carefully and I wouldn't swear to it, but it appears to me that there's no stunt doubles being used in that last fight scene, interestingly enough. At least I couldn't make them out. So I think that Peter Lupus, Greg Morris, and Peter Graves, they actually, did that scene themselves. Which is really, really refreshing. Loved it. Really, really good. And it came across so well. We don't get a lot of those scenes in Mission. Certainly not one that lasts that long. And the guys did it themselves. Great. So why would I not give this one an S? A couple of things that I found. These are just very, very... These are kind of minor nits. First thing. This is a power of 3 rather than a power of 4 just by necessity. Now, I'm not going to penalize the episode for that, but, and it is necessary to the plot because of, what is actually going on, but it is something that I'll note. Another thing, it would have been really, really awesome if they had actually got actual actors from the episode Casino. I guess that those actors were not available. That would have been so perfect in terms of continuity We didn't see John Ireland, who plays Metzger, in that episode. If we had, that would have been really, really great. One person who should have been available was Frank Christie, who appeared in the episode Hit a couple of episodes ago. And if this one had been in the works, which obviously it was, at least it was being written, I'm sure, even if Frank Christie had appeared, maybe he didn't have to be Metzger, but he could have been one of the guys. That would have been great, because he was the second in command. He played Wicks in the episode Casino last season. That would have been top notch, and I really think that would have made this episode better to establish that continuity. I guess this logistically it wasn't possible. You can't have everything, but that would have definitely made it approach an S, which at this point in the series is really, really saying something. The last point that I will make, there's a little bit too much expository dialogue that comes out in this episode. Some of it is the stuff about the Aquarius Casino from that episode. That's necessary, and that part of it is not really too bad. Where I really noticed it is everything to do with the whole thing about Connolly and the agents. That was problematic for me, because they have a few scenes in Connolly's apartment where they keep rehashing the same thing over and over and over again. Hey, where's the key, Connolly? You'll get it when I get my immunity. Where's my immunity? Where's the key? And this is kind of back and forth, and that happens 2 or 3 times, and that just kind of became grating. And then there was a point where the federal agents call Washington and say, well, you know what, this is what's going on, and, this guy wants immunity, and I think we should give it to him. Wait a minute. I thought all of this was already in progress. Why are you calling Washington as if, this is something new that's just kind of come out of the blue here? That was kind of dumb. So, no episode is 100% perfect. I think that the episodes that I've given an S to are as close as you could come. Those ones, as far as I'm concerned, were practically flawless. But this one does have these kind of small little imperfections that really might have just taken it right up to that level. So I am definitely going to give this one a very, very, very strong A+. Better than I remembered it, and it deserves that grade all day and twice on Sunday, which this is. So that's it. I'm just going to leave it at that. Let's leave that as a mic drop for this one. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to see, tomorrow is Thanksgiving here in Canada. I'll see if I have time. I obviously have to spend some time with my family, which I will, and I have been. And so we'll see. I might be able to pump one more of these out, or, we'll see how it goes. Thank you guys, as always, for watching. Please like this episode review. I think that this one deserves your likes, and definitely the channel deserves your subscription at this point, if you haven't already. And please leave your comments about this one. I know that this is a really popular episode to talk about for many of the reasons that I've already said. Thank you guys again, and I'll see you next time.